Hi, Rashid and Kapadia here with my Vipassana Voyage video number 8. I began Vipassana Voyage in January of 2018 when I did my first 10-day course. I did my second 10-day course in December of 2018. So over that 1 year where I followed the guidelines, I was disciplined, meditated quite regularly, morning and evening, went for 1-day courses and group sits, and I felt I had established myself in the foundation, in the basics, well in 1 year. Now, as I commenced that voyage, I decided that I would keep a video diary, a video log before and after some courses, milestones. 6 months, I made a long video after 1 year. Ended up making 7 videos between January of 2018 and March of 2019. After that, I haven't made any videos. And hence this one, video number 8, it's going to be a long one. But this doesn't mean that I did not progress. In fact, I think I made most progress from June 2019 to December 2019. Why is this? Because I ended up doing, without really planning it out, 3 10-day courses and 1 20 days of service. How did I get to these courses? I would keep going to the Dhamma Siri, the website of the Coleman Center. And if I saw that waiting list instead of long waiting list, then I would apply and say, let's see what happens. And I think I got selected quite quickly for 2 of them, the first 2, because they were bilingual courses. So in June, I did English-Chinese course. Then in July, August, I did the 20-day service course where I was a server for 20 days. The most indelible experience. We had assistant teachers who were with Mr. Goenka from the 70s, so it was very, very beneficial. I've covered that in detail later in this voyage, in this video. And then in October, November plus December, I ended up doing 2 courses. One was a Hindi-English course, which I was accepted well in advance. And in December, I said, let me take a chance. And I was accepted 1 day before the course started. So I got it done. And that worked out really well for me. I feel I've made significant progress in these 6 months, the last 6 months of 2019. And I can say in December, that course number 5, I felt I transitioned from a beginner meditator to at least an intermediate level meditator. I want to point out that for the first 1.5 years, I had 2 consistently big challenges. One was with posture. Being able to sit without back support and legs crossed was something I couldn't do. So in all the courses, I ended up sitting on a chair. I continued to struggle at home. I would put more cushions, less cushions, and make an effort. But it wasn't something that I was doing well, and I was not pleased with myself with that. But the biggest challenge for me has been a wandering mind. Sometimes a whole hour has gone and I don't really know whether I've done any Anapana or Vipassana. And that was unacceptable to me. I knew that if I don't solve this problem, it's no point for me to continue. So with that said, started my voyage in 2018, accelerated in the second half of 2019, kept a video log, 2 major struggles. Let me move on to the rest of this video, and I'll see you on agenda item number 1 at the other end of this slide. So on to agenda item number 1, top 3 takeaways from my June 2019 course, my 10-day course number 3. Now, when I asked myself, what do you really want to do, Rashid? And I said, focus, focus, focus. Spend all your time in the Dhamma hall or in the pagoda. Being a new student, I was going to get a pagoda on day 2 or day 3. Spend all your time there and focus only on Anapana Vipassana. Make full use of these 10 days. They don't come frequently. Make full use of them. Now this course, I may have mentioned earlier, was bilingual, English and Chinese. That was a new experience for me. And everything went okay, registration, everything went fine. So what were my 3 big takeaways? First, when I got there, on day 0 or day 1, I can't remember, I approached the assistant teacher and asked him, I have been using a chair in the past, I'd like to continue using one. And he said, now let me challenge you. Why don't you just try? I know you'll have pain, but why don't you try it? I said, no, you don't. I have a lot of pain. I can't even sit for a few minutes. I'm in agony of pain. He said, if you want, I can give you a chair. I can give you one today, I can give you one tomorrow, but just let me prevail on you. Just give it a try. What's going to happen is you're going to feel pain. Just keep observing the pain, awareness and equanimity. And as soon as you become equanimous, start focusing on your breath. And if the pain becomes too much, observe the pain. Just try. You have nothing to lose. Give it a try. And I'll confess, I felt slightly taken aback. It wasn't part of my plan. And I did feel slightly negative, but I was also, what he's saying makes perfect sense. I also recall reading something. World famous scientist, Richie Davidson. He had done a Vipassana course in the early 70s with Mr. Goenka. And he had talked about being in excruciating pain. But he just kept observing it. And he said suddenly it was decoupled. It was almost like he was observing it from outside. And I have tried to do this in the past without much success. So I said, okay, let me give that a shot. Let me really make an effort to bear this, since the teacher, he's only looking out for me. So let me give it a try. And I decided to. I took 3 or 4 cushions, made it quite high, and I tried. And what I can say is, it wasn't that bad. I was able to watch the pain, no back support, and I could do it. But what I was really pleasantly surprised with was from day 5 onwards, all 3 Aditana sessions, I was determined. I did not move. I did not open my eyes. I did not move my legs. I did not move my hands. Complete success, not just for the 3 Aditana sessions, but other sessions as well. I would just try to sit for 1 hour and not move. I may have done at least 20 hours like this without moving. So that was a milestone crossed, a mission accomplished, and I was extremely pleased with what happened there. I have to thank the assistant teacher for that. In fact, on the last day, as we were going out, I saw him coming out, so I just went to him and said, thanks for challenging me. He said, no, don't thank me, thank Dhamma. Well, that's an answer that I wasn't familiar with, but I've heard a lot more. They seldom take any credit for anything. They don't try to socialize. They're there to help you, nothing more. So this is something that worked out for me very well. When you are challenged, you find that you can rise to the occasion. Second big memory for me is, when I was doing in the 1 year, I would listen to Mr. Goenka's guided 1 hour sittings, and he would keep saying, when gross sensation come, when pleasant sensations come, just keep saying, welcome, welcome, let me observe you. Here's a chance for me to dissolve some sankharas, some past sensations. So be equanimous, don't get attached. And mine has always been in my back. So as I was scanning, especially in the pagoda, everything was quite smoothly, but in the back there would be gross sensations and twists and knots and pulsing. It was quite normal. I would watch it for 1 or 2 hours. 1 or 2 minutes. I take that back. And then continue scanning, whether it was part by part or free flow, but mainly part by part. I would really focus what's happening. And then something strange happened. As I started going further, and I would come to that area, I was anticipating pain and there would be nothing. I was almost disappointed. What's going on? Do you really want pain? But it wasn't there. And I started smiling, almost laughing at the situation in which I found myself. But clearly this works. By constantly scanning, at least for those times, the pain, the sensations, I should say, the pulsations, the knots, the almost sometimes volcanoes, they come back and they go. But that was a eye-opening moment for me. That I was just almost curious, amused that there was no pain. It was a milestone for me, and I realized that I'm getting some mastery on the technique. So the third top takeaway from me, which I was familiar with, there is no equivalent for doing this 10-day course. The atmosphere is so nice. Everything is taken care of. Nothing can get you into this deep, prolonged zone of meditation as being in a 10-day camp. And in fact, when I was there, I suddenly recalled an article that I read in the late 1980s. It's about 3 athletes, British athletes, medium distance runners. They were world famous stars. We knew all about them. Sebastian Coe, Steve Ovett, Steve Cram. And the article was saying that you only look at them when they're famous. But they work. In the winter months when nothing is going on, all they do is run. Whether there's daylight, whether it's dark, they have to do so much work you can't imagine. That's where it comes from. And suddenly I felt this is exactly what I'm doing. If I'm going to increase my mastery, concentration and wisdom, insight wisdom, then it is going to be based on work, and there's no shortcuts, no shortcuts. So that kind of motivated me. It's in all fields, you have to do the work. And coming to a 10-day course and having this wonderful setup is an opportunity to do that work. So those were the top 3 takeaways. One is my posture challenge was overcome. I kind of crossed a milestone. I felt much more confident about observing gross sensations and being completely equanimous, mindful that they might come, they might not. And the third one is you have to do the work. Now, a couple more comments about the food. As always, was excellent. I told myself don't eat too much, but no, I didn't. I ate more than I should have. And let's see what else. Yes, when you go for a bilingual course, the overall time of the instructions is the same. So if it was supposed to be a half an hour instructions in an English course, you'd get 15 minutes in English, 15 minutes in Chinese. So you have to pay particular attention. I didn't realize that. So if you're going for a bilingual course and you understand only one language, then pay extra attention because you don't get a chance to reinforce. So that's my top takeaways and my thoughts for my course number 3. And now we'll move on to agenda item number 2, where I'll talk in depth about my experience on a 20-day course as a server. I'll see you on the other slide, on the other side of the agenda slide. On to agenda item 2, my experience of the 20-day course as a server, doing service. I should start by saying I had no intention of doing service at this time. My high-level plan was 1 course a year and service every 2 or 3 years. However, I'm on a couple of email groups and WhatsApp groups, and messages began to come out one after the other, maybe 3 or 4, that there were last-minute dropouts for servers and servers were urgently required. So after ignoring the first and the second, the third or the fourth, I said, no, I have to step up. Can I do this? I found I was able to. So relatively last minute, I applied. And even here, normally you have to be approved by another assistant teacher, which takes many days. But since I applied last moment, I told them you need to rush this application through if you'd like me to join. So it was all done. The minimum requirement is you have to have done 3 10-day courses, which I had met. So that is how, completely unexpectedly, I ended up doing this 10 days of service. And I will say of all my Vipassana memories, this would probably be the most indelible, unforgettable. Because it was so different. I think over time the other courses will become a fog of memory. Which course did that happen on? But not this one. The 20-day course is very different from the 10-day courses. But where I feel I lucked out was that the assistant teachers, both male and female, they were husband and wife. They are husband and wife. And they have been with Mr. Goenka right from the early 1970s. They have been part and parcel of this growth. They've been on various continents. They've been involved in the setup of centers. I mean, I was exposed and in the presence of people who have lived and breathed this for 4 or 5 decades. And that gave me an opportunity to learn a lot, especially at the Q&A time, which I'll come to later. Well, let me start by saying the 20-day course is quite different from the 10-day course. For example, the servers don't sit in on the group sittings in the main Dhamma hall. There's a separate small mini Dhamma hall. And apart from the first sitting and the last sitting, the servers almost never interact with the meditators except in the dining room, where in the course of your duties you might see them. So very different. Also, the course load is not that heavy. The discourses are shorter, and the Q&A in the afternoon. So we are almost done usually by 8:30. Servers, meta, everything. So my routine went something like this. I went there, I said, tell me what I got to do. I'll do whatever you want. So we had to show up at 5:30 in the morning. And I took charge of the male dining room, make sure it's clean every few days, all the tabletops, make sure the food is put there on time, clearing, dust, all of that. Everything in the male dining room was my responsibility. That was the top one. I was fully responsible for that. Immediately after that, I would take over the washing station. I don't know how to cook. I can say I did 20 days without learning a thing about cooking, and everything worked out fine. So I would do all the washing. There's a whole washing station with heavy duty. And that was my second duty. The third was to chop. Whenever they needed vegetables and onions and potatoes to chop, they would tell me what to do. I could do all that. That's not a problem. And I would also, at the end of the cleanup of lunch, I would go and mop up the service area with the 3-4 of us doing it. So that sums up what I did. I had to report at about 5:30 in the morning. The mornings were quite intense. We had our 3 sittings like everyone else in the mini Dhamma hall. So till about 1:30. From 5:30 to 1:30, extremely busy. But after that, really not much, because there wasn't much to be done before dinner. After dinner, they would have the short discourse we would go to our mini Dhamma hall, have our 1 hour sitting, watch a sort of 30 to 45 minutes video, and then the teachers would come. We would have a servers metta and Q&A. So that was my day. And it did allow for quite a bit of free time. So because of this, and there's a Dhamma book library, I was determined that I want to make full use of my time here. So I decided that I will try to read a lot out here, especially those books. I probably put in between 1 to 3 hours of reading every day. I wake up at 4 o'clock with the bell, come to the server's dining room, have a cup of tea till 5:30. I would try to read. And then in the afternoon, between say 1:30 and 2:30, I would try to read. Between 3:30 and 4:30, I would try to read. So I kept myself quite busy, and I benefited tremendously. It was absolutely worth it. What I want to discuss here mostly is the Q&A after the server's metta. So we would have the group sitting from 6 to 7, then 7 to 7:30, 7:45 were the discourses for the students. We would watch some videos, after which both the assistant teachers would come and we would have a server's metta, and then he would open it up for Q&A, call all of us. And I mean, without embarrassment and dare I say without shame, I said, listen, I know you all have been on this voyage for a long time, so can I just ask anything I want? And they said, yes, absolutely. So I said, like, y'all are American, both husband and wife. How on earth did you even find out this? And they talked about how there were many of them looking for something else. A lot of them traveled to India. He said, I don't want to mention the 80s names because we respect their privacy and they keep it separate. But they are extremely leading figures. I've read their names in books by Goenka ji, especially in articles where he says, I'm grateful to these people, to so many people. Their names are there everywhere. So how did they find out about this? They said they were in India, they were on a ship, and they were all, basically it was word of mouth. And they said, you've got to try out this. If you're looking for something, this person who is teaching meditation, he seems to have something special, go and try it out. So they took a ship, I think it was to Madras. That's very close to where I was in school. So I might have been a young schoolboy when they passed that way. But they went to Madras and they said that was the end. Whatever we were seeking for, we found it here. And they followed him. And they would keep telling us stories like this. Of course, I would ask. And I'll be honest, when we were having our lunch together, the server, they would say, keep asking. We really love the asking and listening. I said, why don't you guys ask? But they were a little bit more reluctant. Another set of questions I asked was, we started jokingly calling them the black seed questions. On the course, in the last day, there's a story, you don't throw away the full desert because there are a few cardamom black seeds. That's a foolish thing to do. So I had a few black seeds and I kept putting them out. So I asked him questions like this. For instance, I said, I really don't know. You all talk about vibrations a lot, the vibrations of this place. You can pick up vibrations from others. I've got a very rational, secular background. And I intuitively might have a sense of what you're saying, but can you comment on it? He says, as time goes by, you can actually pick up the vibrations of a place. You walk into some place, it feels better. And yes, I know that there's something very calm, tranquil, wonderful, harmonious about the center, for example. And he says, I've been coming here for so many years and I can feel the vibrations getting stronger. And he says, if you don't understand the vibrations, forget about it. Here's what you should know. Don't forget this. Whenever a defilement comes over you, anger, animosity, hatred, all that, be careful because you are giving out those vibrations. I would suggest you just take a focus on that. Be aware that when defilements are expressed through you, you're contaminating. Those vibrations are harming others. Focus just on that for now, and eventually you'll begin to pick up. He says, when I'm an assistant teacher and I'm sitting, suddenly I can just feel that someone's having a really hard time and I can look there. All right, so these are the ways he answered questions which kind of nudged me forward. Another one I've been struggling with, they talk about consciousnesses moving from one life to another life to another life. And I said, I don't know what to make out of this. And he said, don't struggle with it at all. Just put it completely aside. Just focus on learning the technique now. If as your concentration goes up, you start feeling that yes, there is more to this consciousness, you might understand what they're saying. They are not making up things. This is something that they have experienced. Let's see. I brought up my two big challenges, the posture and the wandering mind. Now, on the posture, he said that many assistant teachers have different ways. Some insist on trying to bear pain, others are more flexible. So if you get a mix of both, that's best. But he said, your task is, when pain comes, bear it, try to get into a comfortable position and do the work. And I had sort of got that, but it cemented it for me. Don't dwell too much on posture. Certainly try to get into the correct cross-leg posture, back straight, face up, eyes closed, all that. But focus on Anapana and Vipassana. And you'll see, he kept saying, keep growing in Dhamma, keep growing in Dhamma, keep becoming more and more aware and equanimous. So that worked for me. But the wandering mind, I said, what do I do? Because it's been a big problem of mine. How can I handle this wandering mind? If I sit down for 1 hour and I haven't done anything and 1 hour is gone, it doesn't make sense for me to do this on a daily basis. He says, what we all do is we constantly say, start again, start again. He kept on saying, as soon as your mind wanders and you're aware, just go start again, with a calm mind, with a quiet mind, with a tranquil mind. Start again, alert mind, attentive mind, vigilant mind. Start again, detached mind, equanimous mind, objective mind. So I think I got what he was saying. And I found this is probably the most memorable part of the entire service. Of course, it's a delight to serve. I didn't know any of those people before, except one. I had seen him in the group sittings. And yes, here's something else they kept mentioning. In the meetings, they would ask, how's everything going in the galley? How's the food? It was very concerned about a sense of abundance of food, that these people are doing a lot of hard work. So whatever food they want, there must be enough and a little abundant. But they also kept saying that we have seen when there's conflict in the kitchen, and that's not unusual. That's where something starts going wrong with the vibrations of the place. So be very tuned in that the way you all are serving, the volition that you all are serving with, the way you all are responding and are interacting with each other, it does affect the atmosphere of the course. And I think I got what he was saying. So we were fortunate. There was the female manager. She was a very senior person. She's also an assistant teacher. And towards one of the last meetings, she said, really, this has been quite an extraordinary group in that I haven't seen any conflict at all. You all work together very well. So one more time, I'd say I got lucky. We were a very good group of guys. And yeah, there were just three plus one, 4 males and I think 7 females. All I can say is I got lucky. We worked like a team flawlessly, and it was a joy to serve. The schedule wasn't all that heavy either. Let's talk about the food. Now, I've always said that the food has been very good, but this time it was better than very good. I think they really went out of their way to take care of the 20-day course students. Also, I think they could give more attention because there were 20 male students and 30 female students. So a total of 50 students as opposed to probably the 100. It became a little bit easier to manage. But for servers, you get to have dinner as well. So to say that I overate is a bit of an understatement. I shouldn't have, but I did. And it's been consistent through all the courses. Let's see, what else have we got here? Yes, the discourses that we saw, they weren't really discourses, they were videos. So I saw some of an Australian assistant teacher, I think he was an Australian, talking about Sayagyi Ubakin and all the earlier teachers. They're all on YouTube. So it exposed me to a world that I hadn't at all familiar with, and very good. We owe a lot to all of them who kept it going, and they were all trailblazers in their own way. The people who brought it to the public, Sayadi Ledo and Sayag Yubakin, all of them, they were determined to make it available to more than just monks, and that is why we are even having this conversation right now. They brought it to us. On day 5, 10, 15 and 20, the assistant teachers actually sat in our mini Dhamma hall for the evening group sit. So the whole schedule was quite flexible, and they made it a point, I think, to take more care of us as servers than they could afford to in a 10-day course. And I particularly remember on the last day, it was the generosity and the genuine concern with which he thanked us. And he said, listen, there's something really important going on. To put together courses like this, 10 days, 20 days, with 5, 10, 15 servers across the globe, month after month, this is not at all easy. And something is happening here. It's probably going to be even more important than what the Red Cross is doing. So keep growing in Dhamma, keep growing in Dhamma. I just remember, as I left, I knew that I had had a wonderful experience. So I hope this is helpful to you. It's the second time I've done full service. The first was as a manager. I've done a video on that. But this is probably going to be the indelible experience of my first 2 years of Dhamma service. If you're a long-term student, do consider doing long-term service if you can pull it off. It's a completely different experience. And now we move on to agenda item number 3. Hi, a brief discussion and some book recommendations following the intense reading I did in the 20-day course and also my previous reading. So the first two are the ones that most made me feel connected to Mr. S.N. Goenka's voyage. The first book is called Our Vipassana Meditation Teacher, S.N. Goenka, a 1-year commemoration from his passing. Superb collection of articles right from the beginning. You voyage with him through his childhood in Burma all the way to the spreading of Dhamma. And the second one is called A Caravan of Dhamma. Apparently in about 2002, for 120 to 150 days over multiple countries in Europe and the United States, Mr. Goenka and a whole group of people went all over and high-level interviews, prime ministers, presidents, universities, lots and lots of discourses, and this at the age of 78. So this is a record of someone who kept almost a diary of that amazing 120, 150 day period. And once again, you feel like you're traveling with him. I went, wow. I'm so grateful that these books are there. I feel more connected to what is driving this movement. So highly recommended, the first 2 books. Books 3 and 4 are For the Benefit of Many and Chronicles of Dhamma. I think of these 2 books as going deep and going wide. For the Benefit of Many is a series of articles based on lectures, on talks that Mr. Goenka has given mainly in centers as they were growing. And that's followed by Q&A. So it gives us a deep insight into his thinking, into the nuts and bolts as to how centers began to grow, how they began to cope when the organization became bigger. Here you see what a masterful manager and leader Mr. Goenka is as he guides this complex operation over the decades. Mainly, like I said, it was his talks at the opening or the closing of these multi-days meetings where they were discussing the future of the centers. Very good, directed mainly at old students who are serious and want to know how he was so visionary and so successful at execution at the same time. Book number 4 is Chronicles of Dhamma. It's a series of newsletters over decades. So you get a broad picture, a wide picture of how the movement grew, different flavors from different times. And it's a very nice book to have a wide picture over decades. Helps us to understand how this movement has become as successful and as respected and appreciated as it has. Both excellent books. Can't recommend them highly enough for serious students. Books 5 and 6. They're completely different from 1, 2, 3, and 4. Book 5 is Children of Silence and Slow Time. It's a collection of poems, short quotes, and obviously put together by a very creative, artistic person who has walked on this path. So he tries to take one piece of wisdom, one piece of nugget, and convert it into a poem, or a set of rhymes. Very well put together. You can open the book anywhere, read it anytime. Small segments. It's completely different from everything else I have, yet it's part of the same voyage. In fact, this book was recommended to me by a fellow server on the 20-day course, and I picked it up when I got back. Very glad I did. Excellent collection to any a library of Vipassana books. Sixth book impacted me very deeply, A Quiet Mind by John E. Coleman. John E. Coleman was a young spy, an American spy stationed in Thailand and Asia, and a very stressful job. So he began to try to calm his mind down. His quest was looking for a quiet mind, and he got very intrigued with the local practices, and he searched far and wide across many years. Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, traveled far and wide. It's a beautiful book. It covers a vast canvas. You can take his trip on a very well-written book. But it comes down, he said in the end, three people affected him most. The Zen scholar D.T. Suzuki was a very wise man. He understood what it was all about and the route to getting a quiet mind. The Indian-British scholar Krishnamurti, who he happened to bump on a flight, and then he spoke to him and developed a lifelong relationship with him. And then most of all, Sayagyi Ubakin, because this was most practical, meditation-based. As a young man, he had gone to Sayagyi's center, but he was still very much playing intellectual games, trying to figure it out. And then later he realized he didn't get all the benefit. The second time when he went, he put all intellectual quests aside and decided to follow the instructions. And in chapter 17, he describes that the power of his concentration and the scanning and the wisdom. He describes it as a very powerful chapter. And I knew when I read it that I will be coming back again and again to read this chapter. In fact, I was so taken up by it that I've created a segment of that chapter, extracted it from the audiobook and put it on this video as well. So you too can get a sense of how deep concentration can be for an advanced practitioner. So that's books 5 and 6, Children of Silence and Slow Time, and A Quiet Mind. All 6 books are excellent. You can't go wrong picking them up. I hope you do read them. They will serve you well. And now we move on to our next agenda item. For agenda item number 4, I only want to place on record a little dedication I read to Mr. S.N. Goenka, which I felt marvelously captured the essence of what he has accomplished. It's a dedication that I read at the back of the book called Our Vipassana Meditation Teacher, Mr. S.N. Goenka, Commemoration of the 1 year of his passing. And it's part of that 2002 tour, the Caravan of Dhamma, where they went all over the West. So in one of the meetings, one of his public lectures, this is the way he was introduced. And I feel, when I first read it, I remember thinking, I agree, well said, sadhu. So here are some words that I hope you will tend to agree with, and I hope you find as much inspiration from them as I did. And again, I'm placing it on record. Over the years, as I watch these videos, I'd like to be reminded of this. Here we go. When future historians identify the key contributions that our era has made to the human venture, they'll surely cite such marvels as the microchip, the mapping of the human genome, the birth of global ecological awareness. But I believe they will also recognize our times as a crucial moment in a subtler, longer-term development, one yet destined to contribute no less profoundly to human welfare and the welfare of all life. The development that I am referring to is the regenerations of the ancient teachings of Gautama the Buddha. Here in the West and across the globe, and when historians identify the creative forces most responsible for this development, they'll cite some names already familiar to us, like the Japanese Zen scholar D.T. Suzuki, like the Tibetan and Nobel Peace Prize winning Dalai Lama, and the Vietnamese monk and poet Thich Nhat Hanh. There will, of course, be many other names on that list, but there will be one, perhaps already not as familiar, that will come to hold a special place of honor. When we come to recognize the full magnitude of his achievement, when we come to fully appreciate the rich and lasting harvest of seeds that this master teacher has sown, and when meditation centers, such as he has inspired, dot the global village, signaling a new phase in the maturation of human consciousness, we will have occasion to be grateful again and again for the life and the work of S.N. Goenka. I agree. Well said. Agenda item number 5 is an 11.5-minute audio clip from that book I just talked about, John Coleman, A Quiet Mind. It's chapter 17, where he describes in extremely great detail how his power of concentration had increased, how he was able to scan his body with unbelievable resolution, clarity, and it was so well written that I knew I'd be coming back to see it again and again, which is why I'm including it in this video. I believe that just to hear another man's experience of this technique being done right can be extremely helpful. It's also worth noting that after this trip to Sayagyi Ubakin Center, where he had this enlightenment experience, Sayagyi Ubakin appointed him as a Vipassana teacher to teach students in the West. And interesting side note also from the book, when Mr. Goenka was teaching in India and hadn't yet started going abroad, a lot of the students were saying, you have to come abroad and teach us, you have to come abroad and teach us. And he said, Mr. Goenka said, not yet, but by the way, there is a Mr. Coleman who has been authorized by Sayagyi Ubakin to teach, so go find him and he will teach you. And the students went and searched out John Coleman and they found him, and that's how John Coleman started teaching Vipassana meditation too. Great story. Also, I've taken a screenshot of the Pariyati website where you can download both the PDF version of this book and the audio version of this book for no charge. You have nothing to lose, so I recommend you do that. And now on to 11.5 minutes of the audio book, The Quiet Mind.
I had come with a firm intention to throw out all my preconceived ideas on the course my search should take. I drifted. As the mood took me, so I acted. I listened to those who spoke. I sat in on the religious services. I mixed among the people of the center. I meditated in the little pagoda room every day, and at any time I felt like it. I was determined not to be trapped by the intellectual vicious circle which had so impeded my understanding during my last course of study here. And to my great joy, I found that at last my mind could be made quiet. The experience was deeply fulfilling. I'm not sure, even now, whether I can describe it adequately, for it is so richly personal that words seem insufficient. It was all that I had expected, yet if I had expected it to be merely self-rewarding, a kind of tonic for a restless mind, I had drastically underestimated it. There was much, much more. The first few days of meditation were difficult, for my mind was slow to free itself from the discordant influences of months of active business and social life. But I noticed that deep concentration came more easily and quickly this time than it had previously. In about 3 days the mind was clear, crystal clear. It was ready to proceed through this complete freedom from all thought to Vipassana, or insight. At this stage my teacher instructed me to be aware of the cellular movements and the active, impermanent nature of the body processes. In time, and with a determination not to rush things, I found I could do this. I was told to start at the top of my head and slowly work on down the body to the tips of my toes, applying a truly penetrating concentration to each part on the way. Gradually, I became aware of tingling sensations throughout these parts of my body upon which this intense concentration was focused. When concentration was directed to my right hand, for instance, I experienced the wild dance of electrons producing a warm glow throughout the hand, and the same effect was achieved on each part of my person in turn. The effect was remarkable. After a few days of this practice, I was fully aware of the true nature of the physical structure of the body as being impermanent and subject to change. I had read about this, and I had been told about it. Now I was actually experiencing it for myself. The keen awareness of this molecular motion was beginning to produce a glow of heat. And are we not taught in science that when there is motion there is friction, and friction produces heat? With further contemplation my awareness turned to the impermanent and transitory nature of the perceptions, and there was a keen awareness of their rising and passing. I was becoming clearly aware of the oscillating nature of all bodily and physical processes. The concept of anicca was becoming crystal clear, and although I had learned of molecular and atomic theories, I was now, with the microscope-like eye of a clear mind, actually experiencing the facts that were previously only theories. Besides experiencing the atomic theories in action in my own body, and as they related to my senses and perceptions, all I had learned of the science of vibration was becoming a conscious part of me. My mind reflected on the various aspects of vibration, from subsonic sounds to the sound frequencies, ultrasonic, radio frequencies, very high frequencies, ultraviolet, X-rays, cosmic radiations. My mind was ranging through the whole gamut of vibrations and their speeds and wavelengths, and how they were all part and parcel of every existing thing, as well as having an influence on my life. My body was getting warmer during this period. The more I persisted in my meditations, the hotter I grew, although the temperature in the pagoda remained uniform and moderate. Soon it felt as if it would be consumed with the intense heat that was manifesting itself. In Buddhist terms, I knew what was happening. I was repaying my karmic debts for past misdeeds in a concentrated form. At this point, the teacher made me take a vow to remain perfectly still for 1-hour periods without moving. I was to make no movement of any kind, not even flick an eyebrow. Knowing this would be an extreme test of will, I agreed. The heat and pain became intense. The suffering was more than unbearable. It was searing and terrible. But persistence and perseverance had been demanded, and I had agreed to it. Buddha's teachings on the nature of suffering became clearly experienced through my entire being. It was like fire, burning and scorching. And naturally the desire to be free from the agony was intense also. The slightest movement of the body would bring instant relief, but only for a moment, after which the agony would return when I sat still again. As the days passed, the pain persisted, and as the pain persisted, so did my desire to be free from it. But there was to be no relief, perhaps a gradual simmering down, but no relief so long as I desired relief. My mind reflected on anicca again, and it occurred to me that if everything was subject to change, so was dukkha, or suffering. As long as the mind was functioning in its usually egocentric fashion, suffering was bound to continue. There was an intense desire to be free from suffering, and this very desire was perpetuating the suffering. This must have been the turning point, my moment of truth. Suddenly, at a point of supreme frustration, my mind stopped functioning, for it realized it could not bring about a cessation of dukkha. The desire to be free from suffering ceased as the realization occurred that it could not be sought after and brought about. There was an infinitesimal attachment to the self, and suddenly, like a bolt of lightning, something snapped, and when the search stopped, there was relief. It was an extraordinary, and, for me, totally unprecedented experience. There was an indescribable calm. There was cool equanimity that seemed to fill and encompass entirety. There was everything and nothing, a peace which passes all understanding. The mind and body were transcended. The mind was quiet. It was not pleasure as we understand the word. Joy comes nearer to expressing the experience. There are no longer any words to carry on with. These were the sentences I wrote down later in a quite inadequate attempt to record the superb moment of my enlightenment. I cannot, and never will, lose the memory of that moment. It will always remain absolutely unforgettable and ineradicable in my mind. It was the culmination, rich beyond all my expectations, of the search. It was the fulfillment and justification of all my hopes. It is useless to try to convey to the reader the full meaning which this strange and truly wonderful experience had for me. A quiet mind is what many yearn for, and if I can at least show that this so elusive state is attainable, that the seemingly impossible can be achieved, then I shall have amply succeeded in the purpose of this account. For me, a quiet mind was top priority. The stresses to which my mind had been subjected as an espionage agent living, as he is bound to live, a kind of double life, with its frequent incidents of such emotions as anxiety, pain, and fear, are the stresses everyone experiences, but in a concentrated form. For a spy, one might say, the emotional strains of a lifetime are telescoped into a few short, hectic years. My need for a quiet mind was urgent, but it is no less important for a business executive under pressure, or a housewife harassed by an irritable husband, or a kitchen full of screaming kids. The end result is the same, and the yearning for release is the same. For the business tycoon or office worker, there is the occasional game of golf, the weekend cottage by the sea, or even the blonde friend installed comfortably in an apartment well away from the unsuspecting, or, for that matter, highly suspicious, wife. For the housewife, tied to home by family responsibilities, there's the prospect of being taken out to dinner or a dance, a visit to the movies, an amorous adventure with a milkman, the annual holiday with the family. But all that these diversions offer is a little temporary relaxation, a change of scene. Once they are over and normal routine is re-established, the same stresses and strains take over again. We start to look forward to the next holiday, the next trip to the movies, the next round of golf. My experience of anicca, which means the change, impermanence, transitoriness of all things, and vipassana, the understanding of the true nature of self, the awareness of self, was certainly a turning point in my life. I had found what I was looking for. I was, to some extent at least, enlightened. But as I have already indicated, this new and valuable state was not an end in itself. Perhaps I had expected it to be just that, but having attained it, I then found, and I think half expected this too, that it was only a beginning. Being attuned, switched on, initiated, call it what you will, I now found many further doors opened, leading to a richer life. One potent force that was awakened in me was the desire to pass on to others what I had learned, and share the enjoyment and fulfillment of it. That was undoubtedly the motivation for writing this book about an essentially personal experience. Before I left the center, I had a number of talks with U Ba Khin, and I put it to him that, should meditation spread to more people throughout the world, and gain a wider acceptance among different kinds of people, there would be a good deal more harmony in international affairs. As things stood, this way of life was followed by an insignificant minority, most of them monks, holy men, gurus, priests, and the like. U Ba Khin himself, with his heavy government responsibilities and extraordinarily active life, was merely the exception that proved the truth of this. He smiled broadly. "It has been my life ambition to teach Buddha Dharma in the West," he told me. "After 30 years of research work and trials, with success and failures, I have reached a stage at which I consider myself well qualified to teach the people of the world. I have tried since 1966 to get a passport to go abroad for this very purpose, but there is a ban on the issue of passports except for government purposes and for those leaving Burma for good. I had to admire the old man's energy. At 71 he was prepared to leave his native land and set out on a mission whose sole aim would be to help others in foreign countries to achieve a happiness which they didn't even know was possible. He knew the task would be difficult, but even in the evening of his life he clearly felt the undertaking worthwhile. Anicca is not reserved for men who have renounced the world for a homeless life. It's for the householder as well, he said. The world is facing serious problems. It is just the right time for everyone to take to Vipassana meditation and learn how to find a deep pool of quiet in the midst of all that is happening today.
Hi, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that audio clip as much as I did, or indeed even I hope it fired your imagination as to the potential depths of our concentration and our ability to know ourselves on a plane that I could not even imagine. Now let's proceed to agenda items 6 and agenda items 7. Agenda item 6 is the top takeaways and some notes from my 4th 10-day Vipassana course. That was in September and October of 2019. And agenda item 7 will be the top takeaways from my December course. I'll see you on the other side of the agenda slides. Agenda item number 6, some notes and top takeaways from my 4th 10-day Vipassana course, which was in September, October of 2019. Before I go into the top 3, I want to comment on the personality and the volition of the AT making a difference. I mean, there's almost no communication with the assistant teacher. If you go for questions at noon or at night at 9, yes, you can. But I've almost stopped. I only go for one question, to be honest. And I've decided to go to everyone. Give me some of your ideas and processes for containing a runaway, a wild wandering mind. And I'm not hearing anything new because they've told me the same thing over and over again. But this particular assistant teacher, he seemed to have a kindness and a goodwill that was different from everyone else. The personality and the volition of an assistant teacher seems to make much more of a difference than I would have thought. Sometimes there's an atmosphere of strictness and discipline and aloofness. But in this particular case, I don't know, I just sensed a goodwill, not for me, for all humanity, and a kind of very harmonious, pleasant personality. I thought I should mention this, that I, at least now, maybe it's got to do with that picking up the vibrations, but I definitely am affected, or I'm influenced by the personality and the volition of the assistant teacher, despite zero interaction. All right. Now, this time, my top takeaways, I should mention it. I keep realizing that there is nothing to replace a 10-day course sitting here. Nothing I do at home, one-day courses, nothing comes close. The level of concentration, of focus, and of a harmonious atmosphere, I have not found a way of replicating it outside. So commitment to doing these 10-day courses frequently is a takeaway or reinforced. But this time my top 3 takeaways were all from the discourses. And I keep marveling at what a splendid teacher Mr. Goenka is, and those discourses, I've heard them so many times, but each time it's like, especially in the Dhamma hall, I'm paying complete attention. So the first takeaway came from, I think, the first day's discourse. When he says, someone went to the Buddha and said, please don't make it complicated, don't give me any philosophies. What is this all about? How do we live a good life? He said, it's very simple. Abstain from unwholesome actions or sinful actions. Perform only wholesome actions or pious actions and continue to work to purify your mind. This is it. This is my teachings. These are the teachings of all enlightened people from the past and all people who will be enlightened in future. This is the teaching. Don't add anything to this. Don't subtract anything from this. This takeaway really hit me, and I said, okay, this I must remember. It's not complicated. Anyone who wants to live a good life, here is the formula. I'll put it up in a slide form before proceeding to my takeaway number 2. Top takeaway number 2 from this course was, again, from the discourses. It was about the 5 friends and the 5 enemies that will help us with meditation. It hit home with a lot of clarity, but also with the realization that this is for any activity I'm doing. So 5 friends, what are they? Faith and devotion, with a caution, blind faith and blind devotion is truly dangerous. Then the next one is effort. Third is awareness. Fourth is concentration. Fifth is wisdom. If I can bring these friends to bear when I'm meditating, I will progress more rapidly. And who are the enemies? Who are the 5 enemies that will hinder my progress on meditation or any other work that I'm doing? Craving, 1. Aversion, 2. Drowsiness, 3. Agitation, 4. And doubt, 5. It hit home quite hard. Keep these friends and enemies at the back of your mind whenever you're doing anything, especially meditation. And yes, I struggle with them sometimes with drowsiness. Sometimes my awareness and my concentration is not there. But it's good to have this clear picture in my mind when I'm doing any work. And this was a good top takeaway for me from this course. Top takeaway number 3, once again from the Discourses. And even though I've watched the Discourses so many times, I'm astonished that I didn't quite grasp the significance of this statement of Guruji until this course. He was saying that the Buddha was teaching householders. This is from the Discourses. The Buddha was teaching householders that the highest welfare is a balanced mind that is unshaken by life vicissitudes. A mind that is secure and stainless, a mind that is free from impurity, from sorrow, from fear. Today it's very clear to me. If you were to ask me, Rashid, what do you really want? If some kind of wizard or a supernatural being had a magic wand and said, Rashid, what do you want? This is what I would say. I want for myself, but not just for myself, for everyone. I want us to have a balanced mind, unshaken by life's vicissitudes, secure and stainless, free from impurity, free from sorrow, free from fear. And what are life vicissitudes which visit all of us? They visit all of us, no exceptions. I don't remember this from the Discourse, but from some book I read. Life's vicissitudes are fame and ill repute, profit and loss, praise and criticism, pleasure and pain. They are going to visit all of us. And if we can maintain a balanced mind that is unshaken by these vicissitudes, the highest welfare is ours. This is my top takeaway, not only from this course, but over my entire 2-year Vipassana voyage. And now on to agenda item number 7, which will be my top 3 takeaways from my 5th 10-day course as a student in December of 2019. I'll see you on the other side of the agenda slide. Agenda item number 7, my last course number 5, the one most recently completed, top 3 takeaways. It's been a long video. If you stayed with me for the entire length, thank you. I hope it's been useful. And these 3 are, again, quite different from everything else I've covered. So it's been a diverse journey, and I'm so grateful I've been taking it. So one of the top 3 takeaways was at the end of Discourse on day 8. Goenka ji talks about past is the past, everything that's happened is everything. But whatever you say, you are the master of this moment. Of this moment, only you can decide what to do. And from the first time I heard this, yes, it rang bells, keep remembering this. But this time, there was absolutely no doubt left. Not ill fortune, not divine intervention, not anything drives our behavior as much as our own internal biology, which is what we are studying with Vipassana. It's not the outside circumstances, though they definitely activate sankharas and reactive behavior. But the more and more I understand how this technique works and how powerful it is clear to me that I am the master of every single moment of my life. And I remember thinking I would do very well to remember this. Anytime you're angry with this person, this politics, that enemy, always, only I am generating that. I am the master of this moment, and I can react in a way that dissolves that past. This became a very strong takeaway for me. In fact, after making this video and thinking about this, I said, let me take a look and listen to the discourse again. And I did. And again, I was so taken up by it that I've actually made about a 2-minute clip of this as a reminder, both for myself when I watch years later and for you. Towards the end of the discourse, Goenka says there are 4 types of people moving from darkness to darkness and darkness to light, light to darkness and light to light. And in that context, he talks about no matter what you do, the present moment is the one in which you are the owner, you are the master. So I'll now transition to that clip, and then I'll come with my final 2. I'll return with my final 2 takeaways.
Buddha said there are 4 types of people I see in this world. One group of people like running from darkness towards darkness. Another group of people running from brightness to darkness. Third group of people running from darkness towards brightness. And the 4th group of people running from brightness to brightness. We should not remain in the first or the second category. We must remain in the 3rd or the 4th. 3rd or 4th we can't decide. At times the life will be full of darkness because of the past karmas. At times the life will be full of brightness because of the past karmas. But we are the master of the present karma. Buddha said, Attahi attano natho, attahi attano gati. You are your own master, nobody else. And you are the master of your future, nobody else. At least whatever happened in the past, happened in the past. But now, you should not generate a single sankhara which will bring misery for you. You are your master. If you are master of the present, future is nothing but the child of the present. You be master of the present and see that your present is full of Dhamma, future will automatically be full of happiness. No darkness will be there for future. Develop this mastery of the present moment, and this is Vipassana. Be master of the present moment. At this moment, I am my own master. I won't plant any seed of misery. I won't plant any seed of darkness, only seed of brightness, seed of happiness, good for me and good for others. See that you practice it properly. The results are bound to come. Good results are bound to come.
And now our final 2 takeaways from my last 10-day Vipassana course. I'll combine them up because they sort of merge into one another. At some point when I was in the pagoda cell and I was scanning my body, I picked up so many sensations and so much going on in my back that I knew I was in a place I had never been before. I thought of John Coleman and the way he described that article. He was talking about his hands and all over his body. And no, I wasn't there at all. But in my back, I was picking up sensations that I couldn't even have imagined existed. Every kind of sensation, but volcanoes going off. And still, there was just a kind of observation, a curiosity. This is really good. I am now acquiring a level of concentration that I have never known before, and I'm picking up signals. This was the takeaway was that I'm really capable of doing this. No doubt, I think it was because I've done 3 courses so close to each other that the concentration returned. But I dropped into a place that I have never been there before. And I had experienced sensations in my body on a resolution never happened before. So that's really the takeaway too. I'm capable of high levels of concentration that I didn't know. And the third takeaway was, yes, I feel I had reached a point. I reached a transition point that I no longer can consider myself to be a beginner. I've become an intermediate meditator right now. That's the way I looked at it. And at the end of the course, when we came out of Noble Silence, when a lot of people asked, how was the course for you? This was really my top answer. I feel I transitioned from a beginner meditator to an intermediate level meditator. Now, after coming back, I've been quite good with my 1 hour morning, 1 hour evening. Sometimes I've even managed more than 2 hours a day. but I've never ever gone back into that zone. No doubt the meditation has been much better in the sense that I can be more focused and less mind wandering, etc. So those are my top takeaways 2 and 3. I know I am capable of concentration levels experientially that I hadn't been aware of before, and I know I've passed a certain milestone. Now it's time for me to close out this video. I was wondering what should I do to close out this video, and I came back to the time when at the end of every course on the last day, day 11, when Mr. Goenka blesses everyone and says, it's very deeply, it kind of connected with me very deeply. So I've just taken a 2-minute clip of the closing of day 11 Discourse, and it's followed up with a song, Sabke Mangal, that was shared on one of the WhatsApp groups of Vipassana that I'm on. It's got the words and the translation. It's very nice. And of course, this is, I'm sure all of us are hopes and our blessings for everyone. Thank you for watching, and let's move on to agenda item number 8, the close.
नमन करें सब धर्म को, धर्म करे कल्याण, धर्म सदा रक्षा करे, धर्म बड़ा बलवान, नमन करें सब धर्म को, धर्म करे कल्याण, धर्म सदा मंगल करे, धर्म बड़ा बलवान, सबका मंगल, सबका मंगल, सबका मंगल होए, तेरा मंगल, तेरा मंगल, तेरा मंगल होए। तेरा मंगल, तेरा मंगल, तेरा मंगल हो रे, सबका मंगल, सबका मंगल, सबका मंगल हो रे, जिस गुरुदेव ने धर्म दिया है उनका मंगल हो रे, जिस जननी ने जन्म दिया है उसका मंगल हो रे, पाला पोसा बड़ा किया उस पिता का मंगल हो रे, इस जगत के सब दुखियारे प्राणी का मंगल हो रे, जल में स्थल में और गगन में सबका मंगल हो रे, अंतर मन की गांठें टूटे,
अंतर निर्मल होए रे। राग द्वेष और मोह मिट जाए, शील समाधि होए रे। शुद्ध धर्म धरती पर जागे, पाप पराजित होए रे। इस धरती के तरतिन में, कण कण में धर्म समोए रे। शुद्ध धर्म जन जन में जागे, घर घर में शांति समोए रे। तेरा मंगल मेरा मंगल, सबका मंगल होए रे। सबका मंगल होए रे। सबका मंगल हो।